All right, this is our community's house. We are all guests in it here to serve our community. My name is Mike Little, Mayor of the District of North Vancouver. So the pleasure falls to me to welcome you all here to our regular meeting of council for December 9th at 7 o'clock. To start our meeting off in a good way, I've asked Councillor Forbes to read our land acknowledgement. Councillor Forbes.
Thank you. We respectfully acknowledge the original peoples of these lands and waters, specifically the Tsleil-Waututh, the Squamish, and the Musqueam, on whose unceded ancestral lands the District of North Vancouver is located. We value the opportunity to learn, share, and serve our community on these unceded lands.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Council, we have an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions from the agenda as presented? Okay, I'll seek a mover. Moved by Councillor Back. Is there a seconder for the agenda? Second by Councillor Forbes. Prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. And Council, we have no, we have the meeting minutes from the public hearing of November 19th that have been circulated with the package. Are there any errors or omissions from those meeting minutes as presented? Hearing none, will someone move their adoption, please? Moved by Councillor Back, second by Councillor Forbes. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. In our regular meeting of council, we preserve a period of up to 30 minutes at the front end for comments from members of the community. They can speak for up to 3 minutes each. We do have a few people that have signed up to speak in advance with priority given to people who are speaking on agenda items. So the first speaker I have is Harry Brownlow, followed by John Gill. Harry Brownlow, welcome. Have a seat here. We'll get the microphones turned on, and when you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to address the council meeting.
There we go. All set? Good?
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks very much. Good evening. I'm Harry Brownlow. I've lived in North Vancouver my entire life, and I'm a kidney donor. Thank you, Mayor Little, and the councillors for your time tonight to consider the motion to join the Living Donor Circle of Excellence, a program that financially supports living organ donors during their recovery. Also speaking to this motion tonight are renal surgeon Dr. John Gill and Kidney Foundation board member Megan Owen Evans. I joined the Kidney Foundation board because my wife, her 2 sisters, and my nephew all have kidney disease. Prior to their diagnosis, they were all healthy, fit, and active people. The sisters discovered they had kidney disease when one of them required a physical and blood work for a change in travel insurance coverage. They found they all shared common symptoms, mostly fatigue. They had not been curious. Had they not been curious and not gone for blood work, it may have taken many more years to discover that kidney disease was in the family. There is no cure for kidney disease. The treatments are dialysis, a transplant from a deceased donor, or a living donor transplant. The most successful results come from living donor transplants. Our family has had the tremendous good fortune of having living donors step forward and change the lives of the 3 sisters, my nephew, and their families. Thanks to the donors, all of the recipients are, with the exception of the one that's still recovering from surgery, which occurred last October, they're all leading normal lives. Our family has had kidneys donated by friends, by extended family, by anonymous donors, through the paired exchange program, and by husbands. The most recent, as I mentioned, was last October at St. Paul's Hospital. We're incredibly grateful to all those living donors and potential living donors who went through the process to see if they were a match. I emphasize, our family has been extremely fortunate, but many kidney patients are not. Matching recipients to donors takes time. The more living donors step forward, the higher the likelihood a match will be found. If you want to explore the lives of a few transplant patients, check out Transplant Stories on the Knowledge Network. It's 4 one-hour episodes that follow patients through their transplant experience. If you want to know more about being a living donor, there are many resources at the Transplant BC website. We're here to help the District of North Vancouver Council make a choice to remove barriers like financial losses during living donor recovery, which will enable new living donors to step forward and save lives. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have after you hear from Dr. John Gill and Megan Owen Evans. Thanks for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Next speaker we have is John Gill joining us virtually, followed by Megan Owens. We can see you're connected to the meeting. John Gill, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, Mayor Little. Thank you very much and good evening to everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. It's really with gratitude that I accept this time to explain a little bit about living kidney donation and its importance in society. For starters, I'm a kidney doctor. I work at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver, and I have an amazing job because I get to work with an amazing team, but more importantly, on a daily basis, I get to experience the amazing benevolence of kidney donors, whether they be deceased donors, so someone who donates a kidney after they have passed away, or living donors who literally during life give of themselves to save someone else's life. Now, these folks are, in my view, are heroes, and I think many people that sentiment would resonate with you. But what's not appreciated is the fact that although these folks are giving life to somebody else and providing a huge societal benefit by restoring somebody back to health so that they can work, raise their families, pay taxes, contribute to their communities, they often are out of pocket to actually give this gift. And to me, that's fundamentally something that's a wrong that we have the power to correct. The cost to a donor really come twofold. One is out-of-pocket expenses, which we've worked hard with our provincial government on an initiative initially started by the Kidney Foundation to have people have their out-of-pocket expenses when they serve as a donor covered. But the Living Donor Circle of Excellence is about covering salary support for people who are recovering from living kidney donation. The program is very simply for an employer recognition program where we celebrate employers who take the bold step of saying, if we have somebody who's in our employ, we would like to support their time to recover after a kidney donation by providing their salary support. This is a huge barrier to living kidney donation. We know this because our patients are reluctant to approach potential donors because they know of the financial hardship that the donor might incur because of this. This small step shows our appreciation of living kidney donation and the benefit they provide, but more importantly, it normalizes donation that we should all be thinking about during our lifetimes. I thank you for the time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. The next speaker I have is, I think it's Megan Owens. I can't see the list at the moment. Megan Owen Evans. There you go. And I don't have a notice to whether they're joining us in person or virtually. We're just going to look for a name that reflects that on the virtual meeting. Don't see a name that reflects that. If Megan Owens is Owen Evans is attached to the meeting virtually, but you don't have a name that reflects that, maybe you can raise your virtual hand or change your name on there. But I don't see a name that reflects that on the participant list. Sorry, at this point, they're not connected to the meeting. Okay. All right, the next speaker that we have is Bruce Lindsay, joining us here in person. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Little and Council. Appreciate the chance to visit with you tonight. I want to talk tonight about big trees and their effect on power lines and causing power outages. You know, when we've got a power outage, there's a lot of costs involved for the individuals. Food is lost, they have to take time off work, childcare expenses, because if they're down for a couple of days, job losses and business loss. You know, these days, about 50% of the population are 3 paychecks away from being broke or homeless. And even a small incremental loss of a day's wages could be enough to push someone into a difficult situation. So power losses from trees are completely avoidable. recent storms in Edgemonte, the news article said that the total cost was around $300,000 for businesses and other losses. If you multiply this by incidents that were not reported, you can see that it can be significant. The staff are able to project taxes 5 years out what are owed, and also bureaucrats are able to project 30 years ahead of what we're supposed to pay for sewage plant fiascos. So what I'm going to ask is that staff try and figure out the costs for power outages 5 years out, because they're completely avoidable. Now, I'd say that we should circle back to BC Hydro, because they're a risk management is in place, and they've got lots of internal money to pay for stuff like this. So I'd like us to take action. It's there's some pictures that I sent to you, and in many cases we got power lines running right through trees. Well, this is just an accident waiting to happen, and it's not going to become improved. You know, we need to get a plan. As Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who wrote The Little Prince, said, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And we're going to have to be persistent on this. At 78 years old, after working in the lumber business since 1973 and continuing to work, I would say that we'll need to be morbidly stubborn and a glutton for punishment to pursue this. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Bruce Lindsay. Would anybody else like to address the meeting? Okay, and I will say that I've double checked the participants list, and I still don't see a name that matches Megan Owen Evans. So I would say we've completed the public input for this evening's meeting. Okay, moving on with the agenda, the first item up for adoption is item 8.1, 8704, bylaw 8704, proposed development charges. This item has already been debated by the council. It is up for adoption. Will somebody move it? Moved by Councillor Murray, second by Councillor Back. I'll call the question on the matter. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Second item, similar situation. This is bylaws 8721, 8722, and 8725, user charges and service fees for 2025. Again, this item has already been debated by the council. It's up for adoption. So moved by Councillor Murray. Is there a second? Second by Councillor Back. I'm prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Moving right along, on to item 8.3, bylaw 8597, zoning bylaw amendment for electric vehicle charging infrastructure for new construction. Looking to staff for an opening comment on the matter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this bylaw formalizes the district's existing policy into the zoning bylaw and provides consistency with neighboring municipalities like the City of North Vancouver, City of Vancouver. Thank you.
I'll be moving the recommendation. Is there a second or second by Councillor Mom? My own comments on this. We used to use the rezoning tool to achieve a number of things in the community to support developing our electrical infrastructure, making sure that it's there to support electric vehicles in the community. When the provincial government changed with bylaws, with laws 44, 46, and 47, bills 46, 44, 46, 47, it changed the environment under which we would have rezonings. In fact, we're much less likely to have rezonings. And so it makes it harder for us to make sure that new development has electric vehicle charging infrastructure in it. And so this step was taken to create a separate bylaw to administer so that we can still expect that in new developments going forward. There still needs to be a lot of work in this area. There's a lot of existing buildings that don't have the infrastructure to be that could be upgraded. The cost to do the transformer upgrades after the fact, once the building is complete, are immensely high. And if you have, let's say you have a slow adoption of electric vehicles within that building, their ability to get the stratas in those buildings to commit to those kinds of facility upgrades is very limited. And so the challenge is you have neighborhoods that you have cars circling around trying to find charging infrastructure in order to be able to keep their electric vehicles going. The North Shore has an incredibly high adoption rate of electric vehicles. We're one of the highest adoption rates in North America. And so we do have to make sure that we have that infrastructure available. Our community expects it. And this is one of the ways going forward that we're going to be able to deliver on that. So I'm supportive of this bylaw. Councillor Ma, your comments?
Yes, it's very short. I'm going to take this opportunity to clarify some comments I made back on a meeting on November 4th. I do support the district's efforts to minimize greenhouse gases. In discussion with staff, our development partners support this initiative as well. So overall, I will support this staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murray, your comments?
Well, I support it because building it first makes more sense rather than trying to retrofit later. So it's obvious that this makes sense. And certainly with the legislation issues that the mayor's pointed out with the provincial government not requiring public hearings, the community's opportunity to give us input. You know, we need to be able to fit this in where we can. But I can't help but, you know, take this opportunity to talk about the amount of energy that we will need and some of the challenges that we're facing in this province. And Mr. Lindsay just talked about when we lose power with these storms. We've been out for days. It's happening more often. Unfortunately, senior levels of government have not ramped up fast enough alternative forms of energy. We imported energy from the US. And I see that I can't, Mayor Little, you'll know the number, but how many Site Cs would we need across this country to electrify everything in order to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions? So I think Mr. Lindsay's quote was apropos in regards to this issue. So we may have the infrastructure, we just may not have the energy to power the infrastructure and ultimately power the electrical needs of our community.
I think the stat was to electrify the entire vehicle fleet, it would be 5 Site C dams, and to electrify the heat source through heat pumps of all of the buildings in the province of BC, it was 20 Site C dams. So the challenge is it's very, we have no path towards that level of production in the province of BC at this time.
And we just turned on Site C and it started in 1983, I believe. We just turned on one Site C a few weeks ago. So I think we're a bit behind. We need to rethink this plan.
There's challenges at all levels, the generation, the transmission through the province, and then the local transmission, the infrastructure on your street, and whether your street can handle charging multiple phase 3 chargers at the same time, or whether that's going to brown out the street. In these cases, it's about building the right infrastructure into the buildings so that when you get those other issues addressed, that you'll be able to support that need in the community. I don't see any further speakers on the matter. I'm prepared to call the question. Oh, Councillor Forbes.
I just wanted to bring it to attention that this, if this should pass tonight, it'll become effective on July 1st next year, not immediately. Just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. July 1st of 2025 is when it would come into force. Okay, prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Okay, next item up for discussion. This is bylaws 8681, 8682, 8683, and 8690, OCP amendment and rezoning for 1634 and 1748 Capilano Road. Let me just verify with the clerk on the non-OCP pieces. It's a simple majority of council. On the OCP piece, is it a different calculation that we'll be considering?
Sorry, thank you, through your worship. Yes, it requires 4 out of 7 votes. So it's a majority of all members of council, not members present. So we do have a full council, so we will need 4.
Because we're all present, it doesn't change. It's the same as the other one, and so they don't have to be counted separately. But if we weren't in a majority of council, you would still need 4 votes for the OCP amendment, whereas the other one would be a simple majority of those present. Okay, all right. Well, this item is returned from a public hearing. I guess there's no additional comments from staff at this time, and so I'm looking to council for a direction. Councillor Back, you have a motion.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Okay, is there a seconder on the staff recommendation? Okay, and comments, Councillor Back?
Thank you, Mayor Little. So this proposal for 1634 to 1748 Capilano Road is one that I've had some time to consider over many months. Most recently, we heard from the public in a formal way at the public hearing. The proposal is for a 171 unit, 12-story hotel on this site, along with 478 rental homes. 48 homes, and of those 48, 18 of them would be through a partnership with the YWCA. I support this project for several reasons. This particular area of our community, the Lionsgate Town Center, is one of the newest town centers in our community, which still requires a lot of amenities and a lot of the services that the residents who are moving into that part of the community are looking for. We certainly heard some of that sentiment during the public hearing, and I think this is a proposal that, in addition to addressing the housing crisis to some degree by providing a significant amount of rental, purpose-built rental, will give us a new hotel, will give us a new restaurant, which we know that people living in that part of the community are looking for, as well as some of those small commercial units that'll provide some of the other sorts of retail businesses that people will look forward to seeing. In addition, there's going to be some significant improvements through this project that this developer is paying for to improve the active transportation through this part of the community. There'll be a new road through there, improving the whole traffic flow as well, a new bus stop. So there are many positives. I want to acknowledge just all of the time it's taken and the efforts, the extent to which this developer has gone to listen to council in this term and the last term of council to try and determine what project is going to work best for the community and on this particular site. And I think what they've landed on is, while no project is perfect, this one certainly does check off a lot of boxes, and I think it will be a great benefit overall for both the people that are living in this part of the community now and for future residents. In the public hearing, we heard overwhelming support, I would say, for this project. So I'm happy to support it here tonight and to support the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder was Councillor Pope. Do you have comments at this time, or do you want me to go through the list? It's up to you. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Ma, next speaker.
Thank you. This is not an easy decision. There are both positive elements and a few major challenges. I've thought long and hard about the discussions I've had with staff and residents, as well as listened to the comments provided during the public hearing. As I mentioned during the early input in the first reading, there are many things that I like about this project. There's a significant rental housing stock. As mentioned earlier, 478 units, of which 10% is below market. 1/3 of the site is going to go for a road realignment, and this is going to be huge for the community. And I believe this is going to address some of the traffic issues down there, especially for residents leaving Lionsgate Village and want to head east on Marine Drive. They will be able to avoid the congestion at the intersection of Marine Drive and Capilano Road. I also appreciate that there's a hotel and it's a replacement of the 171 rooms that are being lost. This will support the local economy and the tourism sector. We heard that from the public hearing. And there will be additional restaurant and commercial space in the area. I also note that there's significant CACs and contributions. 9 million towards infrastructure, 1 million towards public realm, and DCCs totaling estimated $4.9 million. Another factor in part of my decision is that there are no existing tenants impacted, so there will be no displacement. And getting back to the below market rental units, 18 of these will be subsidized units managed by the YWCA. In touring some of the buildings that's been previously built by the developer, it's well designed. There's separate amenities to create a community within the community. As mentioned earlier during the previous meeting, there's about 140 people on the YWCA waiting list for housing on the North Shore. There's no debate we need more rental, affordable units, and generally more housing on the North Shore. However, I also heard the major concern, that being height. The OCP started at 18 stories. The first proposal I saw on council was for 25 stories and had increased to 29. And finally, we're arriving at 37 floors. That's a significant increase. I did speak with the developer and staff about other options to reduce the height of the tower, potentially increase the height of the hotel, but I was told that this idea is not financially feasible. The developer also conducted a shadow analysis, and from what we were shown, there will be an impact on the lower Capilano neighborhood, but the siting of the tower tends to cast a shadow mostly in the evenings on the existing development site. As a municipality, we're facing a challenging housing situation, and the provincial government is requiring us to plan capacity to accommodate another 22,400 units. While we try to encourage gentle densification through more coach houses, the majority of the new units will be in the 4 growth centers as outlined in OCP. Staff have advised that we need to go higher and wider in these town centers. I'll take my extra minutes, please. I know that there's been some concerns raised about setting a precedence with this height, but I don't agree with that. This project's very unique, given the 100% rental, the 171 unit hotel, a third of the site being given up for road realignment. I don't see other proposals offering the same benefits to this community. When one examines the final proposal before us, there are many changes that have been made by the developer based on comments from council and the community. So we're now faced with the decision of approving more density and height in order to get what we want as a council and by the broader community. As I mentioned at the start, this is not an easy decision, but all things considered, I will support this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Murray, your comments, please.
Thank you, Mayor Little. So this is a doubling of the density within the existing OCP terms. We've just begun a review of our official community plan. We passed that several weeks ago to look at a review. And so I'm having some problems creating a plan to more than double the density, or certainly the height. It will be the tallest building on the North Shore. And in absence of that plan, I think Mr. Lindsay made another quote, without a plan, it's just a wish. A vision without a plan is just a wish. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of other developers in this community that are going to wish that they get the doubling of the height in towers and town centers. I don't know if it's going to be that easy for council to be able to reject those plans, because they may indeed come in with lucrative rental projects, which is where developers are building now, rental units. That's the market is not quite as lucrative as the rental market. And certainly when you get up that high, the word affordability can't play into a development like this. We just have to face that fact. These top units are going to have views of the Strait of Georgia and the island, and they're going to be worth a lot of money. Certainly the amenities as far as the YWCA, all very important, and we need more. We've been working with the province for many years. We haven't seen much in return in regards to the development that the province has promised. We hope to get there soon. The broad community doesn't know about this plan. Probably the local neighborhood doesn't know about this plan with the public hearing signs that were put up. We had All people that attended the hearing voted in favor, but that is not, in my opinion, the broad community. They will find out about this if this passes in the newspaper and on social media tomorrow, that the district has approved a 37-story tower, absent of their community plan, completing the review of their community plan, and planning for the infrastructure that we all complain about every single day on the North Shore. We are stuck. The bridge is incapable of accommodating the traffic right now. And yet our solution to it is we will just continue to add and add and add more units. Under the recent legislation that the provincial government has passed, I think we, for the North Shore, the 3 municipalities, including First Nations, we're looking at 70,000 units. 70 is the number they're asking us to look at and actually implement. We have housing needs reports that we're having to hit targets. And ultimately, even though the district was on the naughty list, I think with the city of North Vancouver, I don't know how that works, but we have actually hit our target. But we hit our targets because we went out and we talked to residents and we talked to the community and we asked them what they wanted. We asked them what they thought. We spent millions of dollars in staff time and drawing up the OCP in 2010. And then, you know, we have listened to parts of it and not other parts over the years. It's been one of my frustrations. We were meant to protect light industrial land. We rezoned industrial land to residential. We were meant to protect low-income housing and rental housing. We tore it down and we built Marquette. And now, and I'll take my other 2 minutes. And now we are advancing a project, and I see the benefits of the hotel. I see the benefits of the developers' integrity to working in this community and living in this community. But I have to protect the planning process because that's what we work through. And if we're not going to work through our official community plan, and if we're not going to work through the input of the community, why do we take the time and ask them what they think? Why do we even create a plan in the first place? Why don't we just scrap the plan, not waste our time, not waste the community's time, not waste staff time, and we'll just do it on a case-by-case basis? Because it's disingenuous to go ask people what they think. And I think, Mayor Little, you pointed that out in our last discussion in regards to the legislation. Why are we asking people what they think in regards to the targets that the province has required us under legislation to implement in our municipality if there's nothing we can do about it? And I see the same thing here. I think we're hypocrites if we go out and ask people what they think and then don't follow it. This is not an amendment. This is adding another tower to a neighborhood that did not envision this kind of density. And kudos to the developer for asking. You know, all we can say is no, but they asked. We're replacing a hotel, and I understand that there's no displacement of residents. But last week, I had a woman who was at one time a prominent businesswoman in this community, who's now living on the downtown east side, and she stayed in that hotel that is the subject of this application because there was nowhere else for her to go. So those little hotels do provide a service in a time when it's very challenging for local governments to do one thing like redevelop and at the same time provide affordability to those that are struggling. So I'm disappointed. Well, maybe I'm not disappointed. I don't know. I haven't heard from all my counselors, but my guess is that this will be passed. And I think that's a slight to the public process and the integrity of our official community plan and all the time the community's put into it over the years.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from council? Councillor Hanson.
To thank my council colleagues who have spoken prior. Thank staff for their painstaking work on this project and the proponent for his painstaking work as well. I acknowledge that this proposal involves challenging issues for the district. I am well aware, and I have spoken out often at this table, that we not only have a housing crisis, but we also have an infrastructure crisis. Our roads are congested. Transit solutions are slow to materialize. Recreation centers are crowded. Many of our schools are beyond capacity. Patients, often elderly North Vancouver residents, wait in hallways at our hospital because its capacity has not kept pace with the demand. I understand this, and I will continue to advocate for better infrastructure. And I appreciate that a proposal that calls for the importation of as many souls to this location as this project does can only be accused of making these serious infrastructure challenges worse. However, in this case, I believe that the best interests of our community do require that I vote in favor of this proposal. Along with the 171 suite hotel, which we've heard about, this creates 478 units of rental housing. And as we've heard, 48 of these will be below rental, and 18 of those will be in deep affordability, operated by the YWCA for women-led households. And I suppose this is the nub of the matter from my perspective. When I campaigned for election in 2022, I said I would support rental housing. This is rental housing. I would not be supporting this project if it was made up of strata housing. However, in my view, our community's need for rental housing at this stage, especially affordable rental, compels me to vote in favor of this proposal. I am, of course, sensitive to the issue of height. This will be at 37 stories, the tallest building in the district. It will cast a unfortunate shadow, and it's twice the height envisioned by the Lower Capilano Marine Village Center plan. And I acknowledge the issues of planning deficiency that were raised by Councillor Murray. I would have preferred a smaller building, more in line with the 18 stories that was envisioned through the planning process. However, I'm persuaded that the height is necessary. It's a necessary trade-off for the building being 100% rental and for the affordability component. And I can make similar comments about parking. The proposal calls for 336 parking spaces. And this is only 0.4 stalls per unit. It still will bring many cars to an area that's already highly congested. And in that respect, can only make that traffic congestion worse. I would prefer, I'll just carry on. I would have preferred a vision with less parking and a greater reliance on transit. However, I must vote for the proposal before us, weighing and balancing its strengths and weaknesses for our community. On balance, I believe this proposal gives us the kind of housing we need, rental and affordable housing, in a location that is best able to accommodate that density. I hope that the development proceeds quickly so that these rental homes come into our market as soon as possible, and so that 478 individuals and family can be housed. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Pope.
Thank you very much. And thanks for staff's work on this for so long. There are so many positives about this project. 478 rental homes that we desperately need in North Vancouver, 18 subsidized housing for women-led households, 30 below market units, $9 million in infrastructure upgrades, vital infrastructure that the community needs and will need, including a whole new sewer line. and 4.9 million in development charges, plus the new road to improve traffic flow east to west in Lionsgate Village, and of course, the hotel. Now, during the public hearing, we heard from so many people, an overwhelming number, as Councillor Back has said, that support this project, from employers who need places for their employees to rent, to live on the North Shore and work on the North Shore, and businesses that need the hotels to accommodate tourists, to accommodate their clients, to the YWCA telling us that 240 women are currently on the waiting list for this deeply subsidized type of housing. Now, it will be one of the tallest buildings in North Vancouver, the tallest building in the district at 37 floors. But during the public hearing and in all the emails we received, we heard from very few with concerns about height. And the truth is that neighborhood is growing so fast. I understand that across the street, Squamish Nation plans to build several new buildings directly across the street in the plaza property there that will come in at about possibly as high as 40 stories. Not to mention all of Squamish Nation's development further along towards Lionsgate Bridge. So it's needed. This kind of housing is needed. Our community is growing. Vancouver is growing, and our housing needs report says that we must build thousands more units to accommodate increased population. If we don't, we will just become an enclave for the rich, with no one able to afford to live here except those who had the very good fortune to buy in decades ago. So I will be supporting this development, and I hope that improving this large project, we send a message to the provincial government that the District of North Vancouver is building, and we are doing our part to meet the housing demand of future populations. I would like to see the province invest more in this project. I would like to see many more deeply subsidized units than 18, and certainly the YWCA has told me that they prefer to run operations that are more than this, and that are larger than the 18 units, that they could easily run a project that is double in size if they had the funding. So BC Housing could invest also in the below market units, of which there are 30, and provide a greater level of subsidy for those units as well. So I hope that the Minister of Housing is hearing this, and rest assured that if this is passed, we will be moving forward with more housing in the district. And we expect that in return, we will see greater investment by BC Housing and the provincial government in helping the affordability in the District of North Van. Thank you.
Thank you. Just my own comments on the matter. I voted against this at first reading. My comments still stand from that point, that you have to go back to the community and plan with the community on the growth. It can't just simply be that the council's willing to double the provisions of the OCP in terms of height without going back to the community. What value will we have in future OCP discussions in the community if the council will go to double the height? I would have been more than willing to do a reasonable increase with in order to be able to achieve some community benefits out of there, but I can't accept the doubling of the height from 18 story, over doubling the height from 18 stories up to 37 without going back and having a planning exercise with the community. I fully understand that a lot of people want to just move forward. There's a funny movie out there, it's called Canadian Bacon, and in it there's this great line at one point where they say there's a time to plan and there's a time to act, and this is no time to plan. And it just highlights the point that it's almost comedic that we're so completely charging towards the province's targets for our community in some cases, that we're not going back and doing the necessary planning that needs to take place with our community to get community buy-in for it and to actually move forward as a whole. I think if we had that, and if the community had endorsed that and knew that was coming, then I'd have a lot more comfort passing something like this. I saw in the public hearing, and I did review the public hearing. Unfortunately, I had a prior commitment with the Seymour Community Association. I was speaking at their annual general meeting that night and wasn't able to be there. But as soon as that was done, I hopped on and watched the last few hours of the public hearing, and then reviewed the minutes for the portion that I had missed, so that I'd be eligible to vote today. But I got to tell you, it was compared in there. One of the supporters said, "This is like Brentwood." Well, and let me tell you how this is not like Brentwood. We don't have anywhere near the infrastructure and support and routes in and out of this neighborhood that Brentwood has, including 6-lane roads in each direction, a SkyTrain station, and transit infrastructure going in every single direction from it. Here you're hemmed in to this site, and I don't think it's a great site for the kinds of densities that we're talking about. Also, we did generally talk to the community about when we did the Sealand planning exercise, that we were going to put the peak of the development in and around the rec center on the west side of the road. Now we've gone to a new record height for the District of North Vancouver, east of the original, on the east edge of the town center that was contemplated in that planning process. Again, how does this build confidence in our community that the official community plan is something they can rely on? It's something that they can look to and say, well, that's approximately what the council is going to generally do in this neighborhood. So I have a great deal of discomfort with this project at this density. I'd be a lot more comfortable if we had done a planning process with the community on it, and we haven't. So I will not be supportive of this for the same reasons I said at first reading. But it does appear as though that you do have a majority vote at this time. I'll move along. I see Councillor Forbes. You have some comments.
Thank you, Worship. This project, in reviewing everything again, this was a hard thing to weigh off all the pluses that are there against all the minuses. And when I ran for the first term and when I ran for second term, I wanted affordable housing. 400 and rental, 478 rental with only 18 affordable and 30 below market is not affordable. Anybody who goes out and tries to rent somewhere now, they can't even afford the market rents that are out there right now. So we're just putting outpriced units. By the time this even right now, but certainly by the time it gets built, they are still going to be outpriced units. So I'm not getting what I ran on getting for the community and what the community told me they wanted. So it may not fit in with the provincial plan, but I'm listening to the community that put me here to make decisions for them. Also, I have a real concern. I brought this up at the our first reading. School attendance. The closest school, the two schools that anybody living in this area, including the Lionsgate Village people, is up Capilano Road, which is full, Capilano Elementary, which is full, and the other one is Norgate. So you're going to have to cross Marine Drive to get to the other side of Marine Drive, one of the busiest roads and the busiest intersection with the most accidents. You're going to ask kids to find their way to school that way. I just don't think that's safe. I don't think that's planning. That's another piece of the infrastructure that's missing. We talk about infrastructure all the time, and then we get plans that come, developments that come before us, that kind of tweak it and move it around and get a few more floors and adjust it. And we try to get some community amenity out of that to make it worth sort of exceeding our OCP guidelines. But this, as has already been stated, is insane. It's going from 18 to 37 stories. I mean, and the shadow study that was shown at the public hearing wasn't a complete shadow study. It's not supposed to be done at one time of the year, at one part of the day. So that wasn't even, in my opinion, enough information was done on that. I spent 8 hours with a friend in emergency last week. 8 hours. That's our only hospital. And you want to put this kind of, or some people want to put this much density into one small area, but we still only have one hospital. And again, if they got to get to the hospital from where they live, it's going to clog up all the roads all the way along. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the transportation routes to be able to handle this. And this isn't following the guidelines. It's not written in stone, the OCP, but guidelines. I think that people who don't know about this coming are going to be aghast at it. Also, I think I agree with what the mayor has said and with what Councillor Murray has said. I also agree with some of the things that Councillor Moss said, because it is difficult to look at, you know, it does provide a hotel that we have lost. We're losing all the little ones there. It does provide some good things, but I just don't think it provides enough to put this kind of density in that small an area without improved other infrastructure around it.
Thank you, Councillor Forbes. Would anybody else like to speak? I will just say for my second time, you know, I'm not as, I've heard a lot of comments about how impressed people were with how much was achieved out of this development. I've got to say, it's less than a 10% rate of non-market and subsidy. And so I wasn't actually that impressed with what was achieved through the agreement. And I get that the conditions are changing and it's harder to deliver on a lot of the affordability comments, or a lot of the affordability commitments. But the challenge is the 90% plus of the units that are going to be full market rate in this space are going to be premium. They're not going to help with the challenges that we have. So if we're talking about you know, the premium rental rates that we're seeing in the district of North Vancouver, you know, $5 per square foot, or you know, probably even higher in this case, like it's not actually going to make the situation any better. It's going to be immensely expensive. And so I'm not as impressed with the delivery rate of under 10% for affordability in this. So at any rate, though, I've expressed my concerns. Generally speaking, I do want to reinforce planning processes in our community. I think they're valuable, but they're only valuable if the council generally follows the plans that are achieved with the community consent. And I don't think that's been achieved here. So I will not be supportive. I don't see any further speakers on the matter. Prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries with Councillors Forbes, Little, and Forbes, Murray, and Mayor Little opposed. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next item. This is item 8.5. This is the Living Donor Circle of Excellence proposal from Councillor Back. Councillor Back, it's your report. Will you make the motion and then make your comments once I find a seconder?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the
I'll
recommendation.
second it.
Seconded by Councillor Murray. Councillor Back, your comments?
Thank you very much. I'll keep my comments very brief. I want to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Brownlow for speaking tonight and for Dr. John Gill for speaking tonight, both of whom I think are just wonderful ambassadors for this most important cause. This motion tonight, as the report highlights, proposes that the District of North Vancouver join the Living Donor Circle of Excellence. This is an initiative by the Kidney Foundation of Canada to promote and support living organ donation. And membership would, in my opinion, highlight the district's commitment to health, raise awareness about organ donation, and encourage community involvement in saving lives through living organ donations. I was inspired to bring this motion forward tonight by a friend, Megan Owen Evans, who unfortunately couldn't connect with us tonight, but it's really her sacrifice in being a two-time living organ donor and a real advocate that got me on board. And I also want to acknowledge that our colleague on City Council, Councillor Tony Valente, recently brought a very similar motion forward to their council, which was unanimously supported. Living organ donors like Megan are exceptional people. And I think that's really what strikes me the most about this is just what it takes to the sacrifice that these people are making when they decide to become a living organ donor. And I think anything we can do to support individuals within our own organization who want to be organ donors, we should be doing. And your worship, while supporting individuals who donate an organ with lost wage support is a fairly small financial ask for an organization the size of the district. It's important. It's an important gesture. And I think it shows that we'll be there for any of our team members who want to make a difference in such a huge way in the lives of others. So this is why I brought the motion forward. And again, want to thank the speakers who came tonight.
Thank you very much. Councillor Miri, your comments?
Thank you. It's a great way to end our meeting before Christmas to be able to support a motion like this. And I too have personal experience with a friend who received 2 donations, one a live liver transplant and the second from a cadaver in fighting pancreatic cancer for many years. And it was almost harder on the living donor that donated. It was harder on that person than it was on the recipient. And that was their experience. And I think the blessing is those people that step up to give such a incredible gift to another human being, a family member. In this case, it was a friend of a friend's, which was even more amazing to me. And I agree. The lost wage for the amount of time that a donor would have to take is small in what is actually being achieved through the process. And so I thank Councillor Back for bringing this forward. I'm totally in support of it. And I think those certainly in the Kidney Foundation are all donors that are waiting to receive a gift like this. Just wish that there were more people out there to do it. I know bone marrow is also another one, and it's quite an invasive process. And I think for a lot of people, maybe they have to question, can I take this amount of time off? What if there's a complication? What if I can't? What if it's more complicated than I thought, and there's that risk, and yet somebody's life lies in the balance. And so if we can take the pressure off for the people in this organization that may consider giving a gift like this, I'm happy to do that.
Councillor Miri, Councillor Mong.
Thank you, Councillor Back, for bringing this forward. Back in September, I actually also spoke with Ramya from the Kidney Foundation. My initial thoughts at that time was, hey, this would be a good thing for the district. Some of the information that she provided was based upon a medium salary of $60,000, a 4-week recovery period. When the district's paying 80%, the cost would be only $4,000. When I looked into this some more, I spoke with HR staff and I learned the following. A staff making a donation would be eligible to take paid time off as sick leave. A staff could also make a special request to their manager for accommodation or time off, and potentially work from home if they were capable of that during the recovery. And I also found out that this benefit during recent negotiations was not raised by our union partners. And in regards to Councillor Murray's comment, I had previously signed up to be a bone marrow donor, and I actually received a call a few years back and went through the first round of testing. However, it didn't proceed because ultimately I was not a match. And if I were, I would have had to take time off as a sick leave. So I think removing that financial hurdle could encourage more people to do it, and it is life-saving. So I will support this and ask that staff discuss this with our union partners and our partner agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just make my own comments on it. I appreciate Councillor Ma mentioning that specifically we need to talk to our union partners on this and what their expectations are. You definitely can inadvertently put a lot of pressure on staff at District Hall to become donors in situations once it becomes publicly known that the District of North Vancouver is one of the groups identified as a living donor circle community. I definitely have firsthand personal experience with this, with someone that I worked with donated to another person that I worked with a kidney, and definitely saw the benefit of that very charitable act. They still, to this day, that was 20 years ago, they still do publicly recognize that the recipient takes the family of the donor still out. They just a couple of weeks ago took them out for dinner and to say thank you for that benefit. But I'm kind of curious what we do already. And I think that it's important to sort of go over the different compassion mechanisms that we have in place within the district. And so kind of curious with Ms. Walker here, can you potentially talk about what we already do with the district in cases of humanitarian support?
Excuse me. Yes, thank you for the question, through your worship. We currently do have a mechanism whereby we look at each of these situations on a case-by-case basis. We definitely look after our own. That's always been the mindset of human resources here, as well as the city manager. And what we find is we have had a few cases where we have had similar situations, and we've made many accommodations. Councillor Ma referenced the existing sick leave provisions that staff already have. And so we would certainly do whatever we could to support anybody that was doing this humanitarian type of activity.
Yeah, a friend of mine was a firefighter with the District of North Vancouver and had kidney disease and ended up on dialysis. And the firefighters around all donated days of work to cover their time that they needed to go and do the kidney dialysis. Unfortunately, that person eventually passed away at a relatively young age. And so there are a variety of responses that we have had and can have going forward. I'm curious as if staff can report back about what the different options are. I do worry about putting pressure on our staff. We had the discussions about naloxone and other things that we sort of expected that staff would maybe train on it or learn of how to administer it. And there's no question that there's an argument that, if you train everybody on CPR, then the chances that you're going to be able to support someone and help someone when you have an incident is going to be improved. And this is in a bit of a similar vein, particularly for the people who are doing the anonymous living donor piece, which unfortunately we weren't able to connect with Megan earlier on that, where it's a truly charitable act, but it's still sort of pressure on our staff. And I just want to make sure that we have the support of the union and we have the right mechanisms in place to protect people, because what if you decline? What if somebody in your department asks you to consider donation and asks you to consider looking at becoming a donor? And what happens if the person decides they're not comfortable with that? Where do we as an organization step in to support both of those employees in that situation, or what is our obligation and role in that? Because I don't also want to create a situation where someone feels obligated to do something that they're actually not comfortable with. And so as staff report back on this, then I would just like some of their thoughts on what we would need to do to properly support staff through the process. And I will just say something that I may have misheard in the initial feedback was that there was a person recovering to some degree from a surgery last October. And I don't think it was referring to 2 months ago, October. And so how consistent is 4 weeks of recovery time for the donor? Does it sometimes go way beyond that? What's our obligation as an employer if the person made the decision to become a living donor because of our program, if their recovery time is far in excess of the 4 weeks that have been contemplated through the program? Just lots of questions that I think we as a responsible employer have to answer before we commit to this kind of program going forward. I see Councillors Pope, Forbes, and Hanson. Councillor Pope.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Councillor Back, for bringing this forward. And thank you to Councillor Tony Valente in the city for bringing it forward there. I just feel that I need to respond to those comments that were just made by the mayor. I feel that we can always find obscure reasons and examples of why not to do something. And if we operated that way, things like maternity leave for women may never have happened. Because it seems similar to me to maternity leave policies or adoption policies that enable women to recover and bond with their newborn and not suffer financial hardship to create a family. And that's maternity leave benefits are pretty accepted these days. So to me, what an enormous gift it is for someone to give up their own kidney to help save another person's life. It seems a very simple thing that the North District of North Van could do to help people. So why wouldn't we support this? And I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be supporting this, and I just have a couple of comments. Some of the things that you brought up, I was concerned about, like how does that work with HR? How does that work with the union contract? Not that I want us to not do it, but how can we work, or what do we already have that would facilitate that? I have a family member in my family who lost one of their kidneys when they were 1 year old. And this person didn't require a kidney transplant, but I've thought ever since that this could be something that they would face because they only have one kidney left. And I'm happy to say this person is in their 40s and living well, and very appreciative for all the medical help that they got. So it's always in the top of my mind that this could be something that a member of my family would be facing. So I do think it's a very, very giving gift to give to somebody. So I'm just going to end it there.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm pleased to support that, Councillor Back, for bringing this forward. I found the comments of Dr. Gill thought-provoking, and while I'm pleased to support this program that's being proposed for the district, it really is a piecemeal way of addressing the requirements for kidney transplants across the province. I mean, as I reflected on Dr. Gill's comments, it seemed to me it would be best if this were a provincial program. the province should find ways of facilitating kidney transplants as part of the healthcare system. And as I reflected upon it further, it would be cheaper to pay the, as Councillor Ma pointed out, $4,000 on average to facilitate the kidney transplant than to bear the cost of kidney failure, which is being imposed on our society in all sorts of ways. So thank you, Councillor Back, and let's go on our advocacy with respect to kidney donorship and kidney supports in general. Thank you.
Councillor Hanson, Councillor Back.
Well, thank you very much, Council, for your support tonight. I did think it was a fairly simple ask. I appreciate some of the questions. Some of them I found a little bit obscure, but that's okay. I know that any questions that we may have, staff can certainly get from the Kidney Foundation. Dr. Gill can certainly speak to some of those points that you raised, Your Worship. But I do appreciate everyone's support tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Forbes, I have your hand up. Is that from before? Okay, I see no further speakers on the matter. Prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Okay, Council, we've completed the business of this evening's meeting. We do have an opportunity for reports if anybody would like to make a report. Mr. Stewart, do you have any reports to make? Okay, other members of Council, do you have any reports you'd like to make? So I will just say then that this is our last meeting of the calendar year. We do take a bit of a break into January with our planned next regular meeting of council on January 13th, I believe. And so I did just want to say to the community, it's been an incredible year. Wish you all the best as you wrap out the year with a bunch of different events in the community, both happy holidays for different organizations that are celebrating this year, and from our family to yours, very Merry Christmas. I would like to say on behalf of the whole council, wish everybody an amazing holiday and winter season, and look forward to reconvening with you early in the new year. Have a fantastic time, and at this point I'll accept adjournment from Councilor Murray. Thank you very much. And I will just as a close also just say thank you very much to our staff for preparing the reports for our consideration tonight. Thank you to members of the public for participating, and wish everybody a fantastic week and a good night.